folks, welcome to class number 3 of our series of Pilates for cyclists. Hope you're enjoying the series so far. We're going to get back into it again today. We're going to start lying on your back as per normal. Just a couple of things. Check your environment, make sure you're safe, no furniture that you're going to run into, listen to your bodies. If anything doesn't feel right for your body today, you're just going to leave it out. Won't be very long before we skip through a section if it's not quite right for you today. Remember, you've got these videos till the end of January, so you can keep playing with them, and if something isn't quite right for your body today, it might be right for your body next week or the week after. So feel free to keep playing through the series and perhaps even see how your body has changed as you're progressing through them, if you choose to use them on and off throughout December and January. Okay, so we're going to lie you down. So we're going to wriggle down on your backs. You'll put yourself on your backs and you're going to check your knee alignment. So first thing to do, remember, if you feel that your neck is a little bit strained, you might have your chin to your chest or a little bit higher, you can always put that little towel underneath your head or a pillow, something like that. But basically that refers to having your neutral spine. So we want your head in line with your spine here. Okay, leg alignment. So we want to have our knees in line with our hip bones, those two hip bones that you feel pointing towards the ceiling, and your knees in line with your second toes. We do that alignment because we want to teach your body to work within that alignment and move within that alignment. When you've got alignment between your joints, particularly your legs, the force of your movement is distributed equally. So you want your hips, your knees, and your ankle joints to take the force of your movement equally. That's why we work in that alignment, one of the reasons. Right, head, neck and shoulder alignment, chins up off of the chest, make sure you've got that nice little gap. Should take your gaze straight to the ceiling if you're in the right position. We're going to start with our hands on our rib cage. So we're going to rest on the base of the ribs, and we're going to have our middle fingers just touching each other. So they're just touching each other, and that's designed to see that, so to give you feedback as to whether your ribs are moving. Breathing, nice big deep breaths. Breathing in through your nose if you can, and breathing out through your mouth. And as you take those nice big deep breaths, you're using your full lung capacity for me. So you're letting as much air into your lungs as you possibly can, and then you're slowly letting that air out. And they're nice, gentle breaths. Whilst they're big breaths, they are still gentle breaths. So as you're doing your breathing, you will feel your ribs moving. You're using your full lung capacity. If your ribs are moving, your middle fingers should just be gently coming apart, and then they'll slowly come back together as your ribs come back down. We're going to think of breathing into the back of our rib cage. So you should feel your ribs gently pushing onto your mat or into the floor. We're going to do 2 more breaths. Big deep breath in, allow those ribs to move for me. And then exhale to slowly let all the air out of your lungs that you can. 1 more breath pattern for me. Big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. We're going to keep one hand on our ribs. We're going to put the other hand on our belly, and we're going to do our diaphragmatic breathing. So you're going to breathe with your bellies. So you're going to breathe in. As you breathe in, you're going to feel your belly lifting up underneath your hand. And as you breathe out, you'll feel that belly just gently dropping back down. So you'll breathe in and you'll feel your belly lifting. You'll breathe out and you'll feel your belly dropping. So you're just going to breathe like that for me. This movement is created by your diaphragm. Your breathing is always an example of how breath facilitates movement. So just by focusing on your breathing, you're feeling certain parts in your body moving. Your ribs were moving before, now your abdominal muscles are moving. Breath is designed to facilitate movement, and your breath patterns in Pilates are designed to help you with the movement. You've got 2 more breaths like this. Big deep breath in through your nose and out through your mouth. And you've got 1 more breath pattern for me. Big deep breath in. And slowly let all that air out. You're going to bring your arms down by your side, and you're going to reach your fingers right down towards your toes. So your arms are long and you feel your shoulders draw away from your ears. You're going to keep your front ribs and your back ribs still. Front ribs are staying still, funneled down towards our pelvis. Back ribs are staying connected to your mat. We're going to do our arm arcs. You're going to take a breath in, you're going to breathe out to float both of your arms straight to the ceiling. Nice long arms. Remember, front ribs and back ribs are still. And then bring your arms down and rest them down by your side. So breathing in first. Breathe out to float both arms to the ceiling, keeping that rib cage nice and still, and then bringing them down. Your ribs are moving because you're breathing, but they're not leaving the mat. Your back's not leaving the mat. Your ribs stay connected. Exhale to float your arms up towards the ceiling, and then bring them all the way down. We're going to do one more, and then we're going to add on. Inhale first, exhale, float those arms to the ceiling, and then bring them all the way down. Okay, you're going to start to go further back. Remember, your front ribs and your back ribs are still. So you're going to bring your arms to the ceiling. You're going to go further back, but you're not letting any of your ribs move, particularly the ones that are on the back of the mat. They're staying still. And then bring your arms all the way down and rest them down by your side. So everybody's range is a little bit different here. When you feel your ribs starting to move, your back wanting to lift up off of the mat, or your front ribs lifting, that's as far as you're going to go. As you keep doing them, you might get a little bit further each time. I want you to breathe out as you take your arms backwards. Breathing out as you take your arms backwards is you're going to keep your ribs still. It's going to help keep your abdominals switched on and your ribs funnel down towards your pelvis. So breath is facilitating movement. We're going to do 2 more each. So you're inhaling first. Exhale to float the arms to the ceiling. There's nothing else in your body that's moving. It's just your arms. Your back is still. Your ribs are still. Your arms are long. And then you're going to bring them all the way down. You've got 1 to go. Inhale first. Exhale, float your arms to the ceiling. Take them as far back as you can by maintaining your rib to hip connection and stabilization through your rib cage, and then bring your arms all the way back down. You're going to leave your arms down by your side, but you're going to turn your palms towards the ceiling. We're going to do some little pelvic tilts and warm your lower backs up. So you're standing firmly in your feet. You've got even weight distribution across your feet. Big toe right through the little toe and right across the heel. Palms to the ceiling. If that bothers you at all, feel free to turn them down. Otherwise, palms to the ceiling gives you that nice broad shoulder feeling. Right now, you have a little arch underneath your back. Everybody's got their little neutral spine. You're going to take a breath in. You're going to breathe out to roll your pelvis backwards and allow your spine to imprint into the mat. And then you're going to roll your pelvis forwards and let your back arch. If it helps, think of the imagery of the clock. So you're rolling backwards, you're pushing your spine into the mat, and you're pushing onto number 12 of the imaginary clock that we've talked about. And then roll your pelvis forwards, let your back arch, and you're rolling onto number 6 of your clock. So gently roll backwards, that spine imprints, let the spine flatten into the mat, and then roll the pelvis forwards and let the back arch. So keep moving in your own time. Think about those feet of yours. Keep them firmly down on the mat. Your knees are nice and still. Try not to let them wobble around. Your head's going to move. Your chin will pop in towards your chest. Your chin will pop up towards the ceiling. I want you to let that happen, but try to keep your legs as stable as you can. You're going to do 1 more each way. So as you tilt your pelvis backwards, it's an exhale breath that allows and helps you to do that movement. And then as you roll your pelvis forwards, it's an inhale breath. That inhale breath is designed to help you arch your back. And then you're going to rest in neutral. Moving from your wrists as opposed to your shoulders, you're going to swivel your palms down. You're going to gently engage your arms into your mat. So you've just gently pushed your arms into the floor. That's about a 10 to 15% engagement. For the moment, you are still standing firmly on your feet. We're going to go into our bridges. We're going to take a breath in. We're going to breathe out to tip our pelvis backwards. We've rolled onto 12 of that clock, and then we're going to lift our hips and our back right up off of the mat. We're coming into a straight line from our ribs to our hips to our knees. We're going to pause there. We're going to breathe in, and we're going to breathe out to peel down. I want you to think of lengthening your spine, knees are stable and still, and your pelvis will roll right through neutral at the bottom. So you're going to go again. Inhale first, gentle tilt back, that spine imprints, and then come up into that nice elongated bridge. So you've opened up through your hips, you're getting nice and high but not flaring your rib cage, and then slowly come all the way down. Keep standing firmly in those feet for the moment, and the pelvis rolls through neutral. We're going to do 2 more like that. I want you to think about your knees on these 2. As you tilt back and come up into your bridge, you're going to push your knees out towards your second toe, and then you're going to hold your knees there for as long as you can whilst you peel your spine all the way down. You're as stable as you can possibly be in your legs, and your arms are still gently engaged. Last one, inhale first, a gentle tilt back, spine imprints. Up you come into that bridge, push your knees out towards your toes, pause there, take a breath in, and breathe out to peel yourself all the way back down. Okay, we're going to do a few more. This time we're going to do them with our toes lifted. So I want you to lift your toes up, but keep your heels down on your mat. You're going to take a breath in. You're going to breathe out to tip your pelvis backwards, and then you're going to come up into your bridge. By lifting up your toes and just doing them on your heels, you're going to activate your glutes far more, and then slowly come down. The same rules apply. Nice and controlled on the descent, and let your pelvis roll through neutral. So keeping your toes lifted, inhale first, gentle tilt back, spine imprints, you'll feel your glutes engaging. You want to open up through those hips still, so get that nice straight line. Pause there, breath in, breathe out to come all the way down, maintain the stability. If you hate the feeling of your toes up, feel free to put them down. Otherwise you've got 2 to go. Inhale first, gentle tilt back, spine imprints, up you come into that nice long strong bridge. Pause there, breathe out to come all the way down. Nice long breath, let your pelvis roll through neutral at the bottom, and 1 to go. Inhale first, gentle tilt back, spine imprints, come up into that nice long strong bridge and get that beautiful opening through the front of your hips. Pause, and down you come. Breathe out all the way, pelvis rolls through neutral. Once your hips are down, return your toes to your mat. Lift your left leg straight up towards the ceiling. Interlace your hands behind your left leg and pull your leg in towards your chest. So we want you to feel this in your hamstring. If it's bothering your knee at all, you're going to bend your knee slightly. Otherwise your leg's as straight as you can make it. Your foot is nice and relaxed for the moment. We're going to add a neural floss in a minute. If this position bothers you, you're going to leave it out. Otherwise you're going to pull your toes to your nose and you're going to point your toes to the ceiling. So you're flexing and pointing your foot, and I want you to keep that moving. I want you to keep it fluid. Flex and point. So you've added that to your hamstring stretch. You're going to do 1 more each way. Toes to nose, toes to ceiling. Relax the foot and return the leg back down onto the mat. Change sides. Opposite leg comes up. Interlace your hands. Pull the leg in towards your chest. Get that nice stretch to the back of your hamstring. If it's bothering your knee, bend your knee slightly. Keep your breathing going. Okay, toes come to your nose. Toes go to the ceiling. Toes to nose, toes to ceiling. And again, if that bothers you, just leave it out and just focus on the hamstring stretch. Toes to nose, toes to ceiling. Okay, 1 more each way. Toes to nose, toes to ceiling. Relax the foot and lower the leg back down onto the mat. So you've returned your feet down onto the mat, but I want you to bring your knees and feet together to touch. So you've allowed them to touch each other. We're going to tuck our hands underneath our spine like we did in the last session to get some feedback onto what's happening with our pelvis. So let's slide our left hand underneath our lower back and our lumbar spine. So you've got that little arch underneath your back. I want you to slide your left hand under there and just let your fingers touch underneath that little arch in your back. Your right hand, I want you to take it and place it on the front of your hips, so on that pelvic bone that points towards the ceiling. The idea behind this is this gives you feedback as to whether things are moving through here. We want to be keeping them nice and still. If it bothers you, your hands can come down by your side. That's perfectly fine. Otherwise, a little bit of feedback is sometimes good. So, starting with the left leg, take a breath in for me and breathe out to let your left leg go out towards the side. Your right leg is still, and then bring your left leg back to the center. Change sides. Right leg gently goes out towards the side, your left leg is still, and pull it back to the center. Okay, alternate sides in your own time. Think about what's happening where your hands are. As your leg goes out towards the side, you should not feel any pressure on your fingertips. The pressure on your hands should not be changing. As your right leg goes out towards the side, there should be no movement on that pelvic bone underneath your hip. Core gently engaged will assist that stability. So if you have your tummy muscles switched on, and by that we were looking for your belly button just gently pull back towards your spine. You're not jamming it on. It's like 10 to 15%. If you jam it on, you're going to get fatigued really quickly. We're trying to create some muscle memory here and teach those abdominal muscles to stay switched on. We're going to do 1 more on each side. Allow the leg to go out towards the side, keep the stability through the hips and the pelvis, and draw the leg back in. 1 more on the other side. Exhale to go out. When you get back into the center, pause. Same exercise, we're going to step it up a little bit. So you're going to take your feet wider, hip width. Not too wide, just hip width. Same exercise, starting with the left. Lead with the left for me. Take a breath in. Breathe out to let your left leg go out towards the side. Remember, no pressure on those fingertips that are underneath your back. and then pull the leg back into the center. You want to do it with as much control as you can. Alternate sides over to the right. Leg goes out towards the side. There's no movement through your pelvis, and draw it back to center. As you alternate sides, if you're feeling movement underneath your hand on your right or pressure pushing onto your fingertips on the left, then change the range. Don't go quite so far. Keep the core gently engaged. You could put your feet back into being touching with each other if you want. We're going to do one more on each side. We're keeping the opposite leg stable and still when we move the other one. Let's do one more on the right hand side. Allow the leg to go out towards the side, pull it back to the center, and then pause in the middle. Take your hands out from underneath you. You've mobilized your hips and you've stabilized your pelvis. So when you do bent knee fall out, which is the name of that exercise, the leg goes out, the ball and socket joint rolls, and the leg comes back in. It's designed to keep the pelvic bowl nice and still, so the pelvis is stable and the legs are moving independently. We're going to do what's called some leg circles now. So your feet are going to stay in hip width distance apart, and your arms are down by your side again, and gentle engagement of your arms into the ground. Okay, you're going to float your left leg up to 90 degrees for me. You're going to stretch your left leg out long and straight on a 45-degree angle. So you should have your knees just sort of roughly in line with each other. I want you to pull your toes towards your nose, so you have flexed your foot. And then I want you to take your toes to the left. So you've rotated your leg. So my toes are now sort of pointing over the top of my left shoulder. Keeping that foot flexed, I want you to draw me some circles. So you've flexed your foot, you're drawing some circles, and you've rotated that hip joint. I want you to keep that rotation for me if you can. It's going to help you to keep your hip flexors out of it too much and work the other leg muscles. Change the direction, reverse the direction. So your toes are still pointed on that angle, your foot is flexed, your right leg still, try not to let the other leg move, and you're drawing a circle with the sole of your foot. You've got 2 circles to go, and then you're going to relax that leg, turn it back into neutral, and bring the leg back down and put your foot back down on the mat. Right leg, so you've floated it to 90 degrees. You've stretched it out to a 45-degree angle. So again, your knees are roughly in line with each other. Toes towards your nose, so you've flexed your foot. Then turn your toes to point over your right shoulder. So you've rotated the hip bone, and then circles. They're not big. They don't need to be big. They're about the size of a bread and butter plate. At the biggest, they're the size of a dinner plate. Your left leg is not moving. Your circle is as round as possible. You're breathing, inhaling and exhaling. Change the direction of your circle. Keep your right toes pointed over towards your right shoulder on that angle for me. It's going to help you rotate through that hip. Nice big deep breaths. One more circle. You're going to pause. You're going to bend your knee. Turn your foot to neutral and lower your leg all the way down. You're going to drop both of your legs to the left-hand side of your mat, and you're going to take your gaze over your right shoulder and let your back and your hips stretch out. You're going to breathe here for a few moments. Just let everything stretch. You're going to engage your abdominal muscles. You're going to pull your legs through the center with control, and you're going to drop them over to the right-hand side, and your gaze goes over your left shoulder. And again, you're just going to hang there and breathe. Enjoy that nice rotational stretch through your body. And then you're going to bring your legs back into the center, and you're going to make sure again your feet are still hip width distance apart. You're going to take your hands, you're going to interlace your hands behind your head. So you've got your ring finger and your little finger at the very bottom part of your skull. The rest of your hands are running down the back of your neck. Elbows are nice and wide. So elbows are wide, you're trying to touch your elbows on the opposite side of the room, and you're just able to see them in your peripheral vision. Core is switched on. Feet are firmly down on the mat. We're going to go into some chest lifts first. We're going to take a breath in. We're going to breathe out to lift our head, neck and shoulders. We're going to look directly down to the middle of our thighs, and then we're going to lower ourselves all the way back down. So we're going to inhale breath first. We breathe out to come up. As you come up, you're going to look down to the middle of your thighs for me, and then you're lowering yourself all the way down. Those elbows of yours are nice and wide. Inhale first. Exhale, up you come. Wide elbows. Gaze down to the middle of your thighs for me, and then lower yourself all the way down. Core muscles are switched on, so that tummy's gently pulled back towards your spine. As you come up, you feel how your spine imprints into the mat, and the little arch that's normally there has disappeared. You've got 2 to go. So you're in neutral spine at the bottom. You feel that arch in your back. As you come up, that arch has disappeared and your spine has flattened into the mat. and then lower all the way down. You've got 1 to go. Inhale first, exhale up you come, gaze down between your thighs, and then lower yourself all the way down. We're going to do what's called single leg stretch. So if you can bring your hands from behind your head and bring them down by your side for me. Okay, you're going to float one leg to 90 degrees and you're going to hold it there. You're going to take a breath in and bring your second leg up to join it. You're going to place your hands on top of your knees. You're going to breathe in and breathe out to lift your head, neck and shoulders up, and you're looking directly down to the middle of your thighs. You're going to stretch one leg out on a 45-degree angle. You're going to pull the other knee right in towards your chest. And then you're going to change them over for me. So other leg comes in, other leg stretches out. The emphasis, really pull that leg in towards your chest and stretch it, and match that emphasis with the other leg. So the other leg stretches out nice and long. You're trying to touch your toes on the opposite side of the room. When you're up here, your spine is imprinted. If you feel your back wanting to arch, I want you to take your long, straight leg a little bit higher towards the ceiling. If you're feeling strong and comfortable, that leg could go lower, but you must be able to maintain the imprint of your spine. Big, deep breaths, breathing in and breathing out. We're going to do one more on each side. Pull that leg in towards your chest, stretch the other leg out nice and long, and you've got one more here. When you get back to the center, you're going to pause, you're going to lower one leg down to rest, you're going to lower your other leg down to rest, your head has come down, you're going to slide your toes out along the mat, you're going to reach your arms right above your head, you're going to point your toes away from you, you're going to open up through your fingertips, you're going to stretch through the palms of your hands. As you point your toes away from you, you feel that opening coming through your hips. And team, you're going to breathe. Nice big deep breaths while you're here. We know that breath facilitates movement. One more breath pattern. And then you're going to float your arms to the ceiling. You're going to bring them all the way down. You're going to rest them all the way down by your side. We're going to roll onto our side. We're going to cradle our head in on our arm. So gently flip yourself over. Rest your head in on your arm. Okay, today we're going to have straight legs. If you prefer, you could have the bottom leg bent. We've been doing the bottom leg bent. Today we're going to have straight legs. Straight legs decreases the base of your support. A bent leg at the bottom increases the base of your support. So if you find that you're wobbling around a little bit, you're going to bend your bottom leg. Your legs are just slightly in front of your hips. So as opposed to directly in line, you've brought them slightly forwards, maybe about 5 centimeters. Your feet are flexed, so your toes are pulled towards your nose, and you're going to take your hand and you're going to place it on top of your hip. You're going to push your hip away and create that space within your waistline, and you're going to keep that space within your waistline. Your hand can stay on your hip or it can come on the mat. Either is fine. Hand on your hip is going to be more challenging. Hand on the mat is going to be a little bit kinder to you, and you can move. Nothing is ever set in concrete. You're going to lift your top leg up for me, and then you're going to lower your top leg down. As you lift and lower your leg, your hips are staying still. Your waistline has still lifted up off of the mat. Your breath is matching your movement. Inhaling as you lift your leg and exhaling as you lower. If you feel your body wobbling around, you're going to bring your hand down onto the mat, and that could literally be just a finger. It doesn't need to be a full flat hand. You don't want to take too much body weight into that hand if you put your hand on the mat. Float the leg up for me, keep it really long, and then lower it down. You've got 1 to go. Inhale to lift and exhale to lower. Pause here. Keep your hand on your hip if you can, or put it on the mat. We're going to go forwards and backwards. We're going to start small. Lift the top leg up, and with your flexed foot, kick forwards in front of you. Point your toe and take your leg backwards. Inhale as you bring that leg forwards. It doesn't need to be big. Point your toe as you go backwards. As you're moving, you're trying not to let your hips move. If your hips are moving and you're feeling a bit unstable, feel free to bend your bottom leg. Keep that other leg that's long and straight gently pushed into your mat. That will help stabilize you. Your leg is long. Glide it forwards for me. Take it backwards. That backwards bit is important. You've got 2 to go. Inhale forwards. Exhale backwards. And 1 more. Glide it forwards. Glide it backwards. When you get to the center, bring it back to the middle and lower it all the way down. You'll feel that in your leg. Okay, change sides. So flip yourself over, take your time. Coming down to both legs being straight, if that's what you're up to. Otherwise you could have that bent, it's fine, it's up to you. Both legs straight again is more challenging. Head's resting in on your arm. Remember your chin's up off of your chest, so you're looking across the room in front of you. Your feet are slightly forwards, about 5 centimeters for me. So you don't want them directly in line, you want them just a little bit forwards. Hand comes on your hip, you're going to push your hip away and create that space within your waistline, and then your hand can come onto the mat if you prefer, or you can keep it on your hip, either is fine. Feet are flexed, toes are pulled towards your nose. Inhale to lift your top leg up, and then exhale to lower it down. So you're going to lift and lower. You're not lifting too high that you feel the position of your waistline change. Your leg is long. You're trying to drag your heel up on the wall on the opposite side of the room. The rest of your body is stable and still. Inhaling as you lift your leg, exhaling as you lower it. Working within the range that you can control. If you're feeling your body wobbling around, bring your hand down onto the mat or bend that bottom leg, either is fine. Gently float it up and then lower it down. You've got one to go. Inhale to lift, exhale to lower, pause and rest for a second. We're going to go forwards and backwards in a minute. Hand position can change, you can choose. Start with a little kick for me. If you lift your top leg, keep the foot flexed, kick the leg forwards for me, and then point your toe as you take your leg backwards. Inhale as you glide forwards, exhale as you go backwards. So as you bring that leg forwards, keep that little gap in your waistline, try not to let it drop down. As you go backwards, keep your hips still. If your hand's on your hip, you're going to be getting feedback there. You want your body still and just your leg moving. And you're just going to let it flow. Glide it forwards on your inhale breath. Glide it backwards on your exhale breath. Okay, we've got 2 to go. Bring it forwards to me. Hip and body is nice and still. Take it backwards. And last one. Inhale forwards. Exhale backwards. When you get to the center again, just lower your leg all the way down. In a second, we're going to flip onto our stomach. We're going to start to warm your spines up into extension. We're going to start with some prone extension in goalpost, and then we're going to move to some straight arms. You might stay in goalpost. So I'm going to give you cues through that as we go. But if you feel tightness come into your lower back or your lumbar spine, you might stay in goalpost. That'll make sense in a second. So flip onto your tummies. Bring your arms out a little bit wider than your mat. So you're going to have your forearms, your wrists and your elbows down on the mat. Down on the floor a little bit wider than the mat. Legs. Slide your inner thighs together to touch each other. They might move a little bit. We're going to start with them together. Head is either hovering or resting on the mat, and your shoulders are drawn away from your ears. So your shoulders are back and down. Your abdominals are switched on. So you feel that your belly button is going to gently lift up off of the mat. We're keeping minimal pressure through our arms. We're going to take a breath in. We're going to breathe out to lift our face and lift our chest just gently up off of our mat. And then we're going to lower ourselves all the way down. So we inhale breath first. Breathe out to come up. Lift through the chest. You just come into the base of your ribs for the moment. And then lower all the way down. Shoulders stay nice and relaxed. Not too much pressure into those arms. We're going to use them in a minute, but try not to use your arms too much to start with. We want your back muscles to be doing the work. I'm going to do 2 more. Inhale first. Exhale up you come. Lift through that chest just to the bottom of your ribs and lower down. No pressure in those arms. Last one for me. Inhale first. Exhale up you come. And then you're going to lower yourself all the way down. Keeping your hands on the mat for the moment. We're going to go a little bit higher. Once you pass the bottom of your rib cage, you will need to use your arms a bit. So, take a breath in, breathe out to lift to the bottom of your rib cage, and then keep coming up. Now this is where you're going to gently push into your hands. You want length in your spine, so you want to curve your spine up. You're going to peel yourself all the way down. I want you to say yourself really long. You're trying to pull your face right to the opposite end of your mat as you peel your spine all the way down. Using your arms on the way up, you're going to breathe in, you're going to breathe out to come up. So you come to the bottom of your ribs. Then you're going to push your hands into the floor like you're trying to push the floor out from underneath you. Pause at the top, take a breath in. And then pull your hands back towards you like you're trying to pull the floor back underneath you. Now, if you're feeling tightness in your lower back, I don't want you to come so high. You might go back to just lifting to the bottom of your rib cage. If you're feeling comfortable, you can keep going. You really want to get length in your spine. So you're curling yourself up and then you're pulling yourself all the way back down. We're going to do 1 more. So you're going to inhale first, breathe out to come up. Gently push your hands away like you're trying to push the floor out from underneath you. Pause there, breath in, and then pull yourself back down. You're trying to slide the floor back underneath you and come right back down onto your mat. Let's go into a little child's pose stretch. So we're going to take our bottom back towards our heels. We're going to have our arms in front of us if we can. We're going to sink our hips back towards our heels. We can have a little gap between our knees if we want. We're going to stay here and breathe. If it's uncomfortable for you to have your arms above you, you're going to put them down by your side. Nice big deep breaths, breathing in through your nose and breathing out through your mouth. And breathing to the back of your ribs for me, okay? So I want you to breathe posteriorly into the back of your lungs. One more breath pattern there, big deep breath in and exhale out. Okay, you're going to come forwards back down on your stomachs, and if you can, I want you to bring your arms above your head. So your arms are above your head. Now they could be a little bit wider, or they can be directly by your ears. If you have a grumpy shoulder, you could have one arm down by your side and just be doing the one arm. Otherwise, both arms are above you. Shoulders are nice and relaxed. So even though you've got your arms above you, your shoulders haven't crept up to your ears. Your head is resting or hovering down on the mat. So I want you to keep your head right where it is. We're just going to move your arms. So left arm first. Take a breath in. Breathe out to lift your left arm up off of the mat and then lower it down. Change to the right. Exhale, lift your right arm off of the mat and then lower it down. So you're going to alternate sides. I just want your arm moving. If you feel your body moving and you're sort of rolling on the mat, then your torso is moving and your arm is not. You want to just lift your arm up. Don't worry about the heights that you're lifting. Just focus on length. So lift your arm up, make it really long and lower it down over to the other side. Okay, one more on each side. Lift your arm up, make it long, keep your body still and lower down. And last one, pause at the bottom and rest. Take your hands and slide them underneath your forehead. Rest one on top of the other. If you found it really difficult to lift your arms up, then amongst other things, your pecs are just way too tight. That can happen from the position that cycling puts you in. So you want to make sure you've got that mobility to move your arm. Okay, head's resting on your hands again. All right, hip bones, keep them connected to the mat. So our leg lifts here are not so high that you feel your hip bones starting to lift. Again, focus on length. So let's go left leg first. Take a breath in, breathe out to lift your left leg up off of the mat. Keep your hip bone connected to the mat and then lower it back down. Change sides. Right leg lifts up off of the mat, hip bone stays connected and then lower it down. So alternate sides. You want your body stable and still and just moving your leg. I want you to focus on length of the leg. So you're stretching it out as long as you can. You're trying to reach your toes on the opposite side of the room. You're not lifting your leg so high that you feel your hips starting to lift up off of the mat. I want you to keep your hip bones connected to the mat. We're going to do one more on each side. Take a breath in. Breathe out to lift your leg up, make it really long, and then lower it down. And one more. Lift and lower. Okay, we're going to do 4 more. We're going to do both legs at the same time. So if you feel it in your lower back, I want you to go back to single legs or just have a rest. Take a breath in. Breathe out, lift both legs up, make them really long for me, and then lower them down. By making them really long, you should keep it out of your lower back. Inhale first, exhale up, become lengthen through those legs. You're trying to touch your toes on the wall on the opposite side of the room, and then lower them all the way down. You've got 2 to go. Inhale first, exhale up, become long, long, long legs for me, and then lower them all the way down. You've got 1 to go. Inhale first, exhale up, become lengthen through those legs, and then lower them all the way down. Pause here for me. Swivel yourself up onto your forearms. So you've propped yourself up on your forearms. Still have your abdominal muscles switched on, so you're not hanging out watching telly. You've still got your abdominals switched on. Left hand, reach back. Grab your left foot if you can. Swivel your right arm forwards, come back down onto your stomach, and gently pull the sole of your foot towards your hip, and try and lift your knee up off of the mat. If you can't lift your knee, don't worry. If this bothers your knee, you're just going to let go of your foot, and you're going to relax for a second. You're breathing again, nice big deep breaths. You're going to feel that stretch through the front of your hip. You're going to gently let go of that foot and lower that leg down. You're going to swivel yourself back up onto your forearms, or if you're able to reach your right foot without doing so, feel free to do so. Grab that right foot, swivel your left arm down onto the mat, put your head back down onto your arm, and pull the foot towards the hips. If it bothers this knee, you're going to let go. Gently lift the knee up off of the mat if you can and get that nice stretch to the front of your quad and your hip flexors. And then let go of the leg and lower the leg all the way down. Wonderful. Come up onto all fours for me. Wriggle yourself into your quadruped position. So you're on hands and knees. You're going to make sure that the weight bearing is through your little fingers so you can physically lift your thumb up off of the mat. If you can't lift your thumb up off of the mat, you are weight bearing through the inside of your hands. We want you to weight bear through the outside of your hands. Little gap between your knees. So you're looking for that nice box shape. That box is your arms, your torso, and your legs. Gaze. You're looking about a hand pace and a half in front. So your neck is nice and long. Your spine is in neutral spine. You're going to keep your spine still and just move your limbs. We're going to initiate it with the left arm. You're going to take a breath in. You're going to breathe out to slide your left arm along the mat and lift it up without your shoulders moving. Then put your hand back to the mat and glide it underneath. Change sides. Arm goes out and lifts and then bring it back down. So you're going to alternate sides in your own time. One arm may well be different to the other. You mightn't be able to lift so high on one side, especially if your shoulders are rolled a little bit further forwards. I have a previous life of working in an office environment. My right hand was my mouse hand, and my right shoulder is slightly rolled forwards as a result. 20 years of sitting at a desk will do that to you, but that is okay. Okay, we're going to do one more on each side. Slide your arm out, lift it up just to the height that you control, and then bring it down. You've got one more. Inhale first, exhale out you go, and then bring it down. Hands are going to stay on the mat. We're going to work with your feet, work with your legs. Left side first. Slide your toes along the mat, and then lift your leg up to hip height if you can. Put your toes back down and bring them underneath. You're going to change sides. Slide your toes out, lift them up for me, and then bring them down. Okay, the height that you are lifting to is the height that you can control the stability in your hips. If you feel that your hips are twisting, we don't want you to lift so high. Again, focus on length for me. Keep the length in the limbs. Imagine there's a cup of coffee sitting on your pelvis. You want to keep that cup of coffee stable and still. We're going to do one more on each side. Slide your leg out, lift it up to hip height if you can, and then bring it back down. You've got one to go. Inhale first, exhale, slide the leg out, lift it up for me, and then bring it back down. Okay, you're going to stay here on all fours and we're going to go into a plank. When you do a plank, if you are weighted slightly forwards through your hands, it will be much more about your shoulders. If you are weighted slightly backwards and evenly distributed through your heels and your hands, or your toes and your hands, it will be much more about your core. That'll make sense in a second. So put yourself in your quadruped position so you are directly hands underneath shoulders. Take one set of toes back and tuck them under. Take another set of toes back and tuck them under. So you're in your plank. So just play with that. If you go slightly further forwards, you'll feel it much more in your shoulders. If you take your heels slightly further back, you're going to be much more in your abdominal muscles. It's small. Go forwards, just a little bit forwards. You'll feel it more in your shoulders, and go backwards. We're going to do one more each way. If it's bothering your wrists, just bring your knees down for me. Last one back. Pause in the center. Lower one leg down to rest. Lower your other leg down to rest. Drop your hips back to your heels. Untuck your toes and go into your child's pose stretch. And breathe. Nice, big, deep breaths. In through your nose and out through your mouth. You're going to do one more breath pattern here. Big deep breath in and exhale out. You're going to slide your hands in. You're going to bring yourself up to what I call a high kneeling as opposed to a low kneeling. And then you're going to stand yourself up fully. If you're feeling dizzy, you're going to stay where you are. Otherwise, you're just going to stand yourself up fully. Once you're up, I want you to stand feet hip width distance apart and nice and straight. On my floor in here, I have carpet squares. So there are squares of carpet on the floor. I want you to imagine that your floor has carpet squares and you are standing between two of those squares. So right now there's a carpet square here, and I've got my feet one side of the other. So you've got imaginary carpet squares. You're going to stand up nice and tall, and I want you to feel like you're pulling your imaginary carpet squares apart with your feet. So that should make you feel your hips engage. So So if you just completely relax, so no pulling apart, and then feel like you're pulling your feet apart and pulling those carpet squares apart, and you should feel your hip muscles switch on. You're stabilizing hip muscles. I want you to keep that pulled apart feeling. Your feet are still firmly on the mat, but your legs feel like they're pulling the carpet squares apart. It's going to give you a little lift through your arches. We're going to go into a bit of balance work. So you're looking across your room, and I want you to fix your eyes on something that's not moving. So if you're looking through a window, don't look at a tree that's swaying in the breeze. Look at something that's fixed. Right leg, you're going to transfer your weight into it. So take a breath in, breathe out to transfer your leg into your weight into your right leg, and lift your left leg up off of the ground. And then lower your left leg back down. Go to that feeling again of pulling the carpet squares apart. Transfer your weight into your left leg and lift your right leg up for me. And then lower it all the way down. Come back to the first side. Transfer your weight into that foot nice and evenly, and then bring your left leg up off of the ground, and then lower it all the way down. You're going to go to the other side, transfer the weight, and lift your right leg up. Okay, we're going to add on. So keep your breathing going. Transfer the weight into your right leg, lift your left leg up off of the ground and hold there. Tuck your hands underneath your knees and interlace your fingertips. Stretch your leg out nice and long and straight for me. Bend your leg back in and return it to the ground. Transfer your weight into your right leg. Lift your left leg up off of the ground. Interlace your hands. Straighten your leg out long and straight if you can. Bend your leg back in and lower it down. We're going to do one more on each side. We're going to hold it for 2 breaths. Transfer the weight, lift your leg up. Interlace your hands, stretch your leg out long and straight and stay there and breathe. Nice big deep breaths. Bend your leg in and return it to the ground. We've got one more on the other side. Transfer the weight, lift the leg up, interlace the hands, stretch it out long, stay here and breathe. Keep your eyes on your spot of what's not moving. Bend your leg in, lower it all the way down, and relax for a second. Just give your shoulders a roll and relax for a minute. If you struggle with your balance, I encourage you to practice your balance. When you turn the coffee machine on in the morning and you're warming it up or you're waiting for the kettle to boil, stand on one leg. Don't do it in the shower, don't do it anywhere like that, but just practice your balance somewhere and incorporate it into your day-to-day. The reality is, as the years go by, our ability to balance will be decreased. You want to be able to maintain your balance. Okay, speaking of balance, let your arms come down by your side and then gently come up onto your tippy toes and lift your heels up off of the ground and then lower your heels as slowly as you can. Okay, I want you to go slow. So come up onto your tippy toes and lift your heels up off of the ground and then lower them as slowly as you can. Okay, we're going to do 2 more. As you come up onto your tippy toes, the idea of lowering slowly is that your calf muscle lengthens out. If you're struggling to lower slowly, your calf muscles are too tight. So as you come up onto your tippy toes, your calf muscle will activate. You'll feel it switch on. You want it to deactivate and lengthen back out as you lower them all the way down. We're actually going to do 1 more. So gently up onto your tippy toes, lift your heels and lower them as slowly as you can. Okay, we're going to take that into a little stretch. So you're going to breathe in. You're going to breathe out to come up onto your tippy toes. And as you do, I want you to float your arms out towards the side. I want you to take your arms right up towards the ceiling like you're trying to touch the ceiling. I want you to lengthen your arms, make them really long, and bring your arms down as your heels return to the ground. So breath in, breathe out. That breath out is designed to assist you to maintain your rib to hip connection and your abdominals switched on. Lengthen your arms, make them really long. It's like you're bringing your hands down and you're pushing them through water. We're going to do 2 more. Inhale first, exhale, arms go out towards the side. Come onto your tippy toes, take your arms right up towards the ceiling as high as you possibly can. Lengthen your arms out nice and long and slowly return your heels down to the ground. You've got 1 more. Inhale first, exhale, out you go. Arms go out to the side, they go right up towards the ceiling. Try and touch your ceiling And then slowly lower your heels all the way down and rest. Going to roll your shoulders again. Roll them in one direction a couple of times, then roll them in the other direction a couple of times. Then you're going to focus on keeping your shoulders away from your ears for the rest of your day. Hope you enjoyed the video. Any questions, you know where I am. Have a play with it, see how you go, and I will see you all soon. Thanks, team. Bye now.